Hello everyone, I'm Ellen McCloskey and this is my Module 12 case study. Summarize and establish. Keith Sample is the principal of St. Regis and he works hard to build positive relationships with staff, students, and the community. The school is funded through state funding and 2 large fundraising events each year, a school-sponsored sales event and PTA-sponsored spring fling. The PTA uses the funds to purchase new computers in the past with the intent to use the new monies to purchase software. Mrs. Lynn, the media specialist, and Mr. Sample worked together to create a list of software programs that would cover as many grades and subjects as possible, and then prioritize the needs. The teachers wanted to copy the software for use in all of the classrooms. Mrs. Lynn disregarded copyright laws and copied the software into flash drives. Mrs. Brandon, a new St. Regis teacher, was concerned about copyright laws and brought them to the attention of Mrs. Lynn, who was less than impressed with Mrs. Brandon's concerns. Mrs. Brandon took her concerns to Mr. Sample, who began to investigate the matter. Mr. Sample told her that she would need to collect all of the existing copies and stop making new copies. Mrs. Lynn insisted she was saving the district money and was benefiting all students. She threatened to contact the PTA and made it known that she felt like no one would find out about the copyrighted material. Legal or ethical issues. When determining how to proceed in situations, it's best to analyze whether or not there are any existing legal or ethical issues. The only potential person that could have been harmed by this action is the software developer, since their work was copied without their permission or knowledge. You could potentially say that without copywriting, the students then do not have access to material that they need in order to be successful, but it could still be purchased and it would be a legal way of distributing that software. The action does contravene existing laws as it's copyrighted material, and so I've hyperlinked copyright laws from a previous assignment in this class. There was potentially a breach of contract, as Mrs. Lynn likely signed a copyright agreement or agreed to copyright law through her contract and board policies. The actions are not considered discriminatory or acts of harassment. Mr. Sample's actions potentially interfered with the success and the well-being of students and teachers, as they do not have access to the material they need now, but he's also ensuring the law is being followed. Synthesize. St. Regis PTA raised money for new computer software, and the teachers have asked the library specialist, Mrs. Lynn, to illegally copy the software for use in all classrooms, and she's not accepting of the principal of Mr. Sample's request for her to retrieve all copies made. Evaluating. When looking at different decisions, it's important to look at the unknown facts in order to determine what information needs to be discovered and what still needs to be processed. What's unknown here is, in terms of people, are the various PTA members. The superintendent is relatively involved in this. It's unclear of what community members are involved in this situation or any other stakeholders. In terms of the place, it's unknown what the community climate is like. It's unknown what the school climate is like, and it's unknown what the PTA's response is to the school or what their working relationship is like. In terms of the program, it's unclear whether this is data-informed, so whether these computers truly have helped students, or if this software is truly going to help students, who's been involved in previous curriculum decisions within the district on where these PTA funds are used. It's unclear of what policies are in place for copyright laws, and it's unclear of whether or not the district is trained properly in copyright law. Prioritize. In order to fully understand the situation, it's imperative to evaluate and prioritize the existing information. This situation could be damaging to the stakeholders and the community. The stakeholders and the community have an important stake in the outcome. Not all relevant stakeholders have been consulted. There's plenty to learn about the situation. So what ended up happening? Does the school need to take additional action? What copyright training has been provided / what board policies exist? And in this particular situation with the information given, I don't think there's enough to make a decision. I think there's too many unknowns. In terms of options, when faced with tough decisions, it's important to explore various options. I could choose to do nothing and take no action. I can meet with the superintendent to determine the next best course of action and meet with Mrs. Lynn and the PTA to explain the situation and identify a plan for obtaining more software. I could meet directly with Mrs. Lynn and the PTA, or I could meet with the superintendent and call for Mrs. Lynn to be formally written up if she does not comply with my previous request. Evaluating the plan. When weighing decision options, it's important to look at both the pros and cons of each option. The first option would not take care of the situation at hand and would potentially be allowing my staff to break the law with my knowledge. The PTA could become irate about their funds not being used well and could refuse to donate or fundraise for the school in the future. The PTA and Mrs. Lynn could choose to disregard the meeting and continue making these copies. Mrs. Lynn could get very angry, and this would definitely destroy any relationship that had previously been built, and it could also damage any relationship that exists between the school and the PTA. Developing the plan. In order to make the best possible decision, it's best to complete a final reflection on the most likely decision at hand. So the decision I will choose is meeting with the superintendent to determine the next best course of action and meet with Mrs. Lynn and the PTA to explain the situation and identify a plan for obtaining more software. This plan consults and informs all necessary stakeholders, and it best supports all students and staff within the building. Implementing the plan. In order to carry out a plan, it's necessary to develop step-by-step guidance. So first, I will ensure that I gather all necessary information from all pertinent stakeholders. Then I will request to meet with the superintendent to determine the next best course of action. Next, I will meet with Mrs. Lynn and the PTA to explain the situation and copyright law. Finally, as a group, we'll identify a plan for obtaining more software in a legal manner. The PTA and Mrs. Lynn will likely not understand the reasoning behind following copyright law, but it will be supported with evidence and research. If this plan does not work, then I will work with the superintendent to look at next best steps. This may include looking at a plan of improvement for Mrs. Lynn and looking at policies centered around the PTA's involvement within the district. For statements, PLO Standard 6, Operations and Management. This assignment correlates to PLO Standard 6 by requiring me to read a case study and then implement my decision-making skills as if I were the principal in the case study. In this decision-making process, I was able to effectively advocate for the needs of all students and adults involved and ensure that the decisions that were being made were to benefit everyone. Relevant. This assignment was relevant to my current learning because it allowed me to take what I've learned throughout this course and apply it to a case study. It allowed me to test out my decision-making skills in a fail-safe environment and determine the best course of action to benefit students and staff alike. This assignment will impact what I currently do as an educator because it has given me a process to follow for decision-making. Reflection. This assignment will impact my future as a building principal because it has given me a process to follow when I'm faced with having to make tough decisions. Additionally, it's given me a process to follow that will benefit students and staff alike. All decisions that I make as a future educator should be sound and well thought out. This assignment gives me the tools to do so. And these are the references that I used throughout the presentation. Thanks for watching.